for those who don't know me, I'm Dina Billion, Deputy Director of Career Development at Maryland Carey Law. And I'm very pleased to be joined today by Angie Viswananda, and who is the CEO and founder of Leg Up Legal, which is a program nationwide which pairs pre-law students to mentor professionals. And I'm going to turn it over to Angie to introduce herself. I will also say that we're going to be recording this session for those who miss it. And Angie, why don't you tell us a little bit about your career path and what we're here to do today?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, welcome everybody. I want this to be a super interactive session, so feel free to turn on your cameras and videos and everything. We'll have a section at the end where you guys can actually jump on camera, ask me questions live. And this is supposed to be like a workshop. So I'm going to be going through different things with you on how to do your LinkedIn profiles. But if you want to actually work on your LinkedIn profile individually with me at the end, I have extra time after the hour is over if you guys want to stay after and then just go back and forth individually. So totally fine. But yeah, I want this to be very interactive, not just me talking at you the whole time. So, but I'll do a little introduction of myself. So like Dina said, I am the founder and CEO of Leg Up Legal. I practiced intellectual property law for about 5 years before deciding to launch Leg Up Legal because I was a first generation lawyer. So I'm an Asian American. My parents are from Thailand. They're both engineers. And I had no idea what I was doing when I applied to law school. I had no idea how to really get to know professionals. And so I really thought that there should be an easier way for students to be able to connect with lawyers and learn more about our profession before diving into law school. And that's what Leg Up Legal is all about. But we've been hosting a number of events for pre-law students, current law students, and young lawyers that are all relevant to people who are just starting out in their careers and starting to navigate our world. And so Dina and I were chatting, and one of the things we really wanted to help people with was setting up their LinkedIn profiles. I've been doing a ton of networking through LinkedIn and Zoom during the pandemic, and I have been looking at LinkedIn in a completely different way because before the pandemic, I would say that I had a LinkedIn for about 8 or 9 years, and I didn't really do much with it. As many of you might know, LinkedIn started out as basically a job hunting platform. So it was a glorified resume platform. I had my work experience up, and I barely used it for anything else. I would update it once in a blue moon whenever I would change jobs, but I really wasn't using LinkedIn like I use other forms of social media to interact with people. And that completely changed for me at the beginning of this year when COVID hit, because, as a business owner myself, I had to be out there talking to people, meeting students, meeting pre-law advisors, meeting people at universities, and meeting lawyers at law firms who wanted to be mentors. And now I didn't have a way to do that running around in the physical world. So I decided to really change the way that I use LinkedIn, and I started reaching out to people and engaging with them. And I was so shocked to find a very vibrant legal community on LinkedIn. So there's tons of attorneys, tons of law students, tons of pre-law students interacting on LinkedIn. And I think if you haven't really changed up the way that you've used LinkedIn for quite some time, you might be really surprised to see how people have started interacting on LinkedIn. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to have these 2 sessions. The first section is going to be focused on teaching you guys how to actually get everything up and running, how to make your profile more humanizing so that people know you're a real human being and they want to engage with you. And then the second part of this is going to be how to engage with people on LinkedIn. So then we'll talk about how do you start creating content, how do you reach out to alumni, how do you reach out to attorneys at the law firms that you're interested in or legal employers that you're interested in working in. and how do you research your employers when you're going to be doing OCIs and interviews. So all of that will be on part 2 on Thursday. So I'm really looking forward to, really diving in and getting to know a lot of you and seeing, what your struggles are and what you're interested in knowing. So feel free to just, write in the chat box. If you have any questions, I'll make sure to try to address them as we go, or even just jump on camera and ask me. I'm totally fine with that. I really like it when we do a back and forth. I don't want to really sit and talk at you. It's going to get a little difficult to do because I have a presentation. So as soon as I put up the slides, unfortunately with Zoom, then everybody pretty much disappears. But I promise at the end there will be time for us to go back and forth. So one of the other things I wanted to talk to you guys about is that the reason that we want to set you up for your LinkedIn profile and getting ready to network is because we're going to be hosting a live networking event in January where I'm going to be bringing in attorneys from lots of different practice areas so that you guys can actually connect with attorneys and, just get to know them. If you've been following them on LinkedIn this whole time and you really haven't had a chance to engage with them one-on-one, then we want you to be able to have a chance to engage live. So I am going to launch a poll because I want to know more about you guys and what we might want to do for this networking event. What types of practice areas should I be looking for when I'm inviting attorneys to it? So I'm launching a poll now. So if everybody can just fill this out, while I'm chatting with you for the next few minutes. So some of the things that Leg Up Legal does is we host weekly events for law students, pre-law students, and young lawyers. And one of the events that we hosted this summer was a virtual legal career boot camp. And during that boot camp, I brought in over 90 different practitioners to talk to students about what practice areas that they work in, different aspects of the profession that are really important that you start thinking about now, like your mental health and how to really explore different career paths and how to keep an open mind about what you're going to be pursuing, and really how to start networking while you're in law school. And I know that you probably hear that word all the time, networking, but not a lot of people really explain what it is. And so for me, one of my biggest challenges starting out as a first-gen professional is I didn't have any connections coming into it. So when I was thinking about going to law school, I literally took a phone book, flipped it open to lawyers, and started cold calling. And I got a lot of no's. I was ignored a lot. I got a lot of secretaries who didn't want me talking to their lawyers. And that was really, really hard. So I want you guys to find strategies that are going to allow you to network more easily than me, because now we have, the beauty of LinkedIn and all of our technology that allows you to really engage with professionals in a more targeted way. So that's really what I want to do with you guys, is to teach you how to use LinkedIn as an effective medium to meet real people and build real relationships with them and go past the profiles, past the 2D profiles and into who's that real person behind that profile. So that's what we'll do. We'll get started in just a minute. Let me just take a look and see how many of you guys have had a chance to get into this poll. Well, that's perfect. I'll go ahead and end the poll now then. And alrighty. So we'll go ahead and share my screen and we'll dive right in here. So first part of our workshop is going to be how to create your LinkedIn profile. And we're going to go over trying to select your professional photo, creating a LinkedIn banner, attention-catching headlines, crafting your summary, visually representing your accomplishments, describing your work experience, and requesting LinkedIn recommendations. Just to give you an idea of why this is important, I wanted to at least talk to you about some big LinkedIn stats that shocked me. So there's over 171 million LinkedIn users in the US. 470,000 US users have a JD degree. That's like mind blowing to me. I don't know where else you're going to be able to go to interact with 470,000 lawyers every day. So if you really want to be able to talk to a lot of lawyers, you should be on LinkedIn. 380,000 of those users have mid-level experience or higher. So these are not entry-level lawyers. These are not law students. These are people who are now getting up to, hiring level positions. So, I mean, that's a ton of key decision makers that you should be taking advantage of and talking to. So that kind of sets the stage. Now, I want you to start thinking about ways that you can set up a profile that shows you're a human being. So your very first impression is this top box. So you're going to see, and I've put up a couple of examples of actual law students so that you can kind of see examples of what other people are doing. I think it's always intimidating when lawyers put up their own profiles, because a lot of people feel like, oh, I don't have that level of experience yet. So I try to use actual real world law student examples. So in case you guys know any of these people, here they are. So your first impression is going to be your profile picture. And for your profile picture, you want to make sure you're, of course, in professional attire. It's closely cropped on your face. What a huge mistake that I see a lot of students making is they do their whole headshot. And unfortunately, the LinkedIn profile photo is super small. So like if you do your whole headshot, you really can't see much of you. So you want to do a real close crop. And you want to make sure you have good lighting. LinkedIn's profile image also is pretty dark. So if you upload a regular photo that looks pretty good to you, you might want to make sure that you look at the actual editor to see if it darkened it. Because I see a lot of people who put up normal photos that would look fine in a normal medium, but they just look darker on LinkedIn. Also make sure you're approachable, and you're looking at the camera, that you either have a smile or at least a face that looks friendly. Like you would be amazed how many people I see that I look at their LinkedIn profile and I'm like, that looks like a mugshot, and that's terrifying, and I would not talk to you. So just make sure that you have an approachable look to your profile photo. Then behind that profile photo is your LinkedIn banner. And this is actually getting ignored by a ton of people. So LinkedIn made this customizable like a couple of years ago, but very, very few people were customizing it. But if you notice, this is actually the largest thing on your entire profile. So like it's literally a billboard. And if you're not taking advantage of this billboard, then I think you're missing out on a key piece that creates that first impression. So you can put a lot of different things on that billboard. You can customize a LinkedIn banner using several different tools, which we'll get into in a sec. Or you can just put a picture back there. But, these are kind of the key pieces that you should be thinking about that create your first impression when somebody gets to your profile. And that's a key piece that shouldn't be overlooked. The next piece is consider adding pronunciation to your name if you have a difficult name. Like I have a difficult name, so I add pronunciation to mine. And add your pronouns. I think that if you want to be more inclusive and you want to help people know how to address you, you should go ahead and add your pronouns. And then also your headline. This is the attention grabbing, piece right underneath your name. So you want to make sure that it's jam-packed with information that's really going to help people see that you're unique. So I see a lot of law students just putting, JD candidate and their school, but then they don't really put anything else there. And so you come across the same as every other law student on LinkedIn. And so you want to add a little extra piece there. And we'll go over these in more detail. So your profile pic, again, for a good photo, you want professional attire, closely cropped, good lighting, approachable, looking directly at the camera. For not so good, so like this photo would have been totally fine if you were really, really close up on her, but it's too dark. So yeah, just be careful about the lighting. This photo, you're cropped way too far away, so you can barely see her face, and she's not in professional attire. In this photo, it's a little too dark, so you can't really see him. And then this photo, like you can clearly tell this is like a wedding photo. Yeah, that's somewhat professional, but I think it's a little too clear, like that this is a wedding photo. Just make sure that everything about your photo tells that person that you're professional, that you know how to at least look good and make a good first impression. If you don't have a headshot, I know a lot of students are like, listen, I can't get to a photographer. My school's not doing in-person headshots. Like, I get it. You can take a great headshot with your smartphone. So just a couple of ways to do that. You want to have a friend do it. Don't try to do it yourself because you're not going to be able to get your hand far enough from your face. So try to get a friend, parent, whoever, to take your photo for you. And you want to be like sitting down against a solid color wall, whether that's white or black or whatever, because that's going to be easy to crop you out. And then you want to have the person take it looking where you're looking up at the camera, so that's kind of the best angle because it makes you look more dramatic. So raised up a little bit, and then about, I would say, maybe 3-4 feet away at least, and then have you on a solid color wall. So this is exactly how that photo looked when I took this of Nyla. She's one of my students. And then we did an even closer crop for her LinkedIn profile. And then we used the photo editor to just highlight her a little more so that it got a little bit lighter. But yeah, so you can take a great headshot just by using a smartphone, any smartphone. For your banners. So this is the default banner. So this is probably what you're seeing like 99% of the time. That's kind of boring. So you can customize your banner in Canva. So I don't know if any of you guys have ever used Canva, but it's free. And they actually have a ton of LinkedIn banner templates. So just in the search bar in Canva, just put in LinkedIn banner. It'll give you the dimensions that you need, and then it'll give you a ton of different templates. You can really customize that however you want. You can upload your own pictures like Shaylin's done here. You can just put, your contact information or, a little bit about you, or you can also use images that represent you. So if you want to, have a Black Lives Matter banner, or if you want an image of the city that you're in, or if you want a photo of your law school or whatever it is that's important to you, go with something that talks about you. I saw in the chat box, people are asking, can the background image be associated with a personal hobby? As long as it's pretty professional, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily put a picture of you like skydiving or something. But yeah, as long as your personal hobby is pretty professional, you could go for that. I would really shoot for trying to communicate something about yourself as a law student. You want people to know right away when they come to your profile what you're immediately pursuing right now. For your headline, JD candidate, law school, totally fine, but add something that describes your passions and interests. These are actual law students. They added little things about them that just give you just a little bit more information. This person's a policy analyst. This person's also a blogger for Barbary. This person. So this is actually one of my pre-law students. So I just want to show you this so that you know it doesn't matter what experience level you're at. You could be a 1L, 2L, 3L, doesn't matter. Like, you're going to have things about yourself that you can highlight about yourself. She has her own branded hashtag. She actually founded this legal internship program. Think about that extra something that's going to pique their interest, that makes you just a little bit different than everyone else they're looking at, okay? Your about section. This is the "Are you a human?" test. The little CAPTCHA things that you have to like select all the squares with crosswalks. Like, this is basically what the about section is to me. Like, when I come to an about section and people have something on there that's literally, it's written in the third person, it's really cold, and there's like maybe 3 things about you on there. It just tells me like you're not even really trying. The whole point of your about section is to come across as a human being. And to craft a professional and authentic summary, you want to make sure you're representing your personal brand. And there's many different dimensions to that brand, okay? And it's okay if you've never had a personal brand. Don't worry about that. But you can start thinking about, what do you do? How do you do it? Why do you do it? And when you think about it in those 3 ways, you'll start to pull out some of the things that you believe in. Authenticity is, how true are you to your values and beliefs? That means you have to show people what your values and beliefs are. If you don't mention anything about your values and beliefs, people have nothing to judge you by. For this particular law student, he's put that in here. He says, I'm a mission-driven, collaborative agent of change who believes in analytics and systems thinking. So he talks about what does he do, how does he do it, and why does he do it? His motivation in his career is to empower and improve outcomes for marginalized individuals and communities. That's the why, okay? All of you have some sort of why you pursued law school. If you haven't thought about that, you should. Think about how are you going to communicate to people? Why are you doing this? No one's going to care that you're a law student. They are going to care that you went to law school because you wanted to help a certain type of person, that you went to law school because your parents were immigrants and you wanted to help them be able to navigate the immigration system or other people who are like them, or that you are very passionate about women's rights and you want to be able to change some of the ways that the system right now is currently. So, whatever it is, you need to talk about it and your passions in your about section. Write conversationally in the first person. You're going to have plenty of times where you're going to go work for a law firm and they're going to make you write in the third person. That's great, but save that for your law firm bio for now. On LinkedIn, I want you to be very conversational. Vary your sentence structure and make sure you use white space. So if every single sentence has 3 subparts, they're not going to finish reading it. Try to break it up a little bit so that you're emphasizing the parts that are the most important. Proofread that like your life depends on it, because this is literally the only thing people will read for the most part until they decide, is this a person that I want to look into further? So your about section is by far the most important section of everything on your profile. Proofread it like your life depends on it. And include a call to action. So this student at the end, he says, if you're interested in connecting with me, feel free to message me. That's exactly what you need to do. Include some sort of call to action that encourages people to interact with you. This is another example of the same thing. I just wanted to be able to show you kind of how somebody else approached this. So Stephanie, she talks about what she's passionate about. She represents her brand. She's passionate in using technology to create access and economic opportunity for Black communities in the US. So again, what she does, how she does it, why she does it. She writes conversationally in the first person. She varies her sentence structure. So she's got these short, punchy sentences. It's totally fine if they're short. Just make sure that they communicate a lot. And she uses white space. There's no typos, and she has a call to action, happy to connect with other students, entrepreneurs, lawyers, and leaders. I think that you should really use something as broad as this as much as possible, because law students are too focused on just talking to lawyers or lawyers in hiring positions or people that you think have reached a certain seniority level. But you need to realize you're going to be part of this profession for a very long time, and some of your most important connections will be your peers. So make sure that you're connecting with your peers and other people that are in the classes behind you, ahead of you. And if you're JD students, make sure you're connecting with your LLMs. If you're LLM students, make sure you're connecting with your JDs, because honestly, those are going to be some of the strongest connections that you're going to carry with you into your professional lives. So really include a broad call to action to encourage a lot of different types of people to engage with you. Your featured section, LinkedIn added this just a year ago, actually. It changes all the time. So they allow you to put links into a featured section, which goes right underneath your about section. So in this area, you can upload documents, you can have articles, you can have all sorts of things. But what I suggest for most law students is have a PDF of your resume, remove your personal contact info, so your address, your phone number, and your email address, but add a line that says, for contact information, message me. So I just don't want a bunch of creepers reaching out to you on LinkedIn. So just don't include your personal phone number and that information. Oh yes, and as Dina said, make sure your career services officer or counselor reviews your resume before you upload it. Make sure that it looks pristine. Do an introduction video. You can do an introduction video of yourself on your phone and upload it to YouTube. Make sure you're in professional attire. All the rules for the headshot apply. An introduction video is a great way to humanize you. There's an introduction video on my profile. So if you're scared of doing video and you don't want to look stupid, like, I totally understand. I was just like you, but I did one anyway. So like, go look at my intro video and see what it looks like. But I think it's a great piece to really humanize you and show people like, oh, there's a real person behind this profile and they're really cool and I want to get to know them. You can also upload your best posts, and we'll talk about posts and engagement in part 2. In case you haven't started posting anything on LinkedIn, totally fine. But when you do start posting, you can put those in your featured section. And then links. So if you have a blog or you do a podcast for school, or you have other social media content related to your law school journey, or you have your own YouTube channel, as long as they're about law-related topics, feel free to put all that information into your featured section. This is Bree. She was one of the people that I featured earlier, and this is her featured section. So she, writes her own blog. She also is a social media representative for Barbary. She's done YouTube videos, and she's also gone on to podcasts. And then this is her law review article. Literally all the things. You're welcome to put any one of these things, or all of them if you want. But I think having a really rich featured section is really nice to really highlight the pieces of your profile that are going to get buried at the bottom. And so all of that work experience and the activities and all of that stuff kind of gets buried in text at the bottom. So try to think about, like, what are the key things that you want to highlight about yourself? Oh, you want a moot court competition? Awesome. Put that in your featured section. Oh, you do a podcast for your school? Cool. Put that in your featured section. Whatever you can do to really highlight your accomplishments in media is really important. And your work experience, this is not where you just regurgitate your resume. Yeah, you should use bullet points to summarize your responsibilities, but LinkedIn bullets should be punchier, okay? Don't just throw everything that's on your resume onto your LinkedIn profile. Try to think of the stuff that people will care about. Discuss key statistics or metrics, things that are quantifiable. If you worked in some sort of sales position and you were able to raise sales for, by 25%, and, then that's quantifiable. If you worked during the summer and you filed 12 trademark applications, that is quantifiable. If you did a survey of all 50 states of their laws in insurance, that is quantifiable. Try to think about numbers, because numbers speak to people. So use something quantifiable. You can also actually add media links in your work experiences. People don't take advantage of this very much, but like, if you have any links to public work product, you can put it in there. Now, I know a lot of you, if you're working for law firms or legal employers, a lot of that stuff is not going to be public facing. So what I want you to think about doing is, after each role that you have, do a reflection about your internship or your role with whoever it was. What did you learn in your internship? And you can write it as a LinkedIn article and upload a photo and then link that into your work experiences, so that every single one has a reflection that people can go in and see, like, oh, what did you actually learn in this internship? A lot of my undergraduate students are doing that, and it's very effective. People really like knowing that there's more in the story to what that internship was like for you, or that summer associate position, or whatever it is. You can add emojis or colored bullets or anything to break up the monotony. Again, this isn't your resume, so like, have fun with it, play with it. I wouldn't use anything that's really unprofessional, but you can use check marks or colored bullet points. I've seen people using the little light bulb or the scales of justice, whatever it is, but it just helps to show some personality. If your prior work experience isn't law related, think about things that you developed in each role that are transferable to law. So if you have customer service experience or things like that, I would add those types of skills and experiences to your work experience. And you're not limited in page here. Like, it's not like your resume where you have one page to fit everything on. You can actually put as many experiences as you want. So I would err on the side of putting more rather than less. But if you have 15 retail positions, maybe not include all 15 retail positions. if you just don't have a lot of work experience, you went straight from kindergarten through undergrad through law school, and you don't have any work experience, during your breaks, like winter break, you can do a virtual experience program or an online certificate program. So if you've heard of theforage.com, they have a bunch of virtual experience programs. Latham Watkins has a virtual experience program in all sorts of transactional law. White and Case has virtual experience modules in all sorts of different transactional law. You can do online certificate programs. You could even ask bar associations if you can attend CLEs, that kind of thing, where you can get some of this experience and add it to your LinkedIn. Just requesting LinkedIn recommendations. LinkedIn recommendations are social proof. They're proof that another human being has judged you and they think you're good. So this is actually really helpful. People want to know that other people have interacted with you. So try to select people who have supervised you for work or academic projects, or it could be one of your extracurricular activities, anybody who just knows you really well and knows your work product. But you have to make sure that you connect with them first and that they're active on LinkedIn. So that might be challenging because not all your supervisors are probably going to be on LinkedIn, but try to find people that are active on LinkedIn, because you can only request a recommendation from a first connection. So if they don't use LinkedIn often, try to follow up your request with an email or a call so that they know it's there, because they might not be checking their inbox. Let them know why you want the recommendation. Hey, I'm going into OCI season and I'm trying to update my LinkedIn and I would really like to get recommendations from people. I saw in the chat box, somebody asked, are recommendations something that you should add throughout your career? Should they always be updated and added to? I think yes. And you can always take some away too. So I think it allows you to have up to, 50 on there. So you could have all of them if you wanted. But I think you should definitely have the most recent ones first. So I would keep requesting them throughout your career. Make sure your request is timely. Don't go back and ask somebody who supervised you 5 years ago to write about your work now. They're not going to know. They're not going to remember. But if you worked for somebody for a really, really long time and they've known you, for a good chunk amount of time, then yeah, sure, you can ask for a LinkedIn recommendation from them. You could also ask for LinkedIn recommendations from a professor if you did research for them, or any sort of role where you had somebody supervising your work. How to actually do it. Go to that person's profile, click more, which is next to the message button. And then from that drop down, there'll be a request a recommendation. So just go there and then it'll bring up a little pop-up window where you can type a message. In your message, you want to say, why do you want this? Be polite about it. I'm updating my profile in preparation for on-campus interviews for law school. I want to add a few recommendations for my work and past and present roles. Would you be willing to write about the work that I completed for you during an internship or during whatever role? I'd really appreciate it. Something that I left off of here is you might want to give them a timeline if you're kind of pressed for time. Pretty much everything else is just icing on the cake. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. You can add your activities and societies, skills and endorsements, honors and awards, organizations, languages, all of that. But I mean, to be honest with you, when I look at a LinkedIn profile, I barely ever get to those sections because I decide within the first, 5 seconds of me looking at that profile if I want to engage with that person further. And if I do, I invite them for an informational interview or invite to talk to them so that I can really get to know more about them in their own words rather than looking at the rest of it. But to the extent that you have these things, you want to fill out your profile as much as possible because you never know when somebody's going to pick out a little detail that's important to them. Whatever is going to help them bond with you. Did they go to your same undergraduate university? Were they in the same fraternity? Did they also participate in that particular competition that you were in? Do they also speak this super obscure language that you speak? You never know what it's going to be. So I would fill this stuff out, but just know that if there's anything in these 5 categories that you think is really, really important, you should find a way to highlight that in your featured section. So that's pretty much all the substantive stuff I wanted to go through. I know I blazed through that. So if you guys have any questions, feel free. You can always email me after this presentation. My email is angiev@leguplegal.com. And I want you to, go to my profile, check out all of the free resources that we have in there. I compiled a law student resume book of a bunch of law student resumes. It's free for download on there. And there's a bunch of other free content on my profile as well. We also do meetups like this every single week. We've been doing them since the beginning of COVID, so we've literally had 50 of them. And the recordings of all of our past meetups are on our YouTube channel. We have lawyers from different practice areas talking about personal injury law, family law, like all sorts of different areas. So if you're still in your career exploration mode where you don't know what you want to do, go check out those videos. We also have videos about mental health awareness and just prioritization, time management, those types of things. And we run several post series on LinkedIn. And this is what I'll talk about on Thursday is like how to start creating content. One of our post series is called The Real Lawyers of LinkedIn. So we highlight lawyers that I've talked to on LinkedIn every single week in different practice areas so that you can actually connect with them and grow your network. So all the people who are being featured specifically want to be growing their network. So reach out to them. Then there's the Juris Mentor post series, which are actionable tips that you can use in your career. And we release one of those every single week. The Real Lawyers of LinkedIn is twice a week. Juris Mentor is one a week. I also wrote a book about networking on LinkedIn. I wrote a chapter in a book about networking on LinkedIn. So if you're interested in hearing about my experiences and the experiences of 19 other women lawyers who all met on LinkedIn, and have really changed the way that we've used LinkedIn during this pandemic, check out this book because I think that it has a lot of great information in there about just really how has this impacted the legal profession in tons of different practice areas. All of my co-authors were from different practice areas and different industries, and so it impacted us really differently. And then Thursday, we're going to go over 5 types of LinkedIn posts to start engaging in the LinkedIn community, 5 types of comments that you can use to engage on other people's posts, how to find industry leaders to follow and engage, identify relevant groups to join, connecting with your alumni and attorneys in the practice areas that you're interested in. I'll give you a DM template for asking for informational interviews, and how to attend virtual events and reaching out to the speakers and participants afterwards. And then finally, researching your prospective employers in time for OCI. So I think that is everything.
Angie, I just wanted to say a very quick thank you for that amazing information. And it's interesting how your career development just never ends. And some folks on the call are just starting out and some have been practicing. I've been in this world for about 25 years and we always have something to learn. So, I've gotten a lot of takeaways from this session myself, and I appreciate your time with us today.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm of a different generation, and I just wanted you to touch on what caveats you have for people right now with social media to watch the sort of things that they post so it doesn't come back to haunt them.
Luckily, I think on LinkedIn, people are a lot less likely to post that kind of content. A lot of people, I think, regret some of the stuff that they posted on Facebook early in the days and on some of the other social media channels. But LinkedIn, for the most part, I think people have been used to using it professionally. But yeah, I would say just make sure that anything that goes on your LinkedIn is something that you wouldn't mind seeing on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. Like you don't want anything that's going to come back to bite you. So just, if you're posting about experiences that are happening in your life as a law student, that's totally fine. I think if you want to talk about your experience in law school, talking about your first horrible cold call or things like that, all of that's perfectly fine. But if you want to talk about that awesome party that you hosted after finals, probably not. So I think, you just want to keep it as professional as possible. For political posts, I think my opinion of that changed this year because I do see a lot of people engaging in the political environment on LinkedIn. I think that as long as you do it respectfully and professionally, that's fine. I wouldn't go on any psycho-political rants about, I mean, anything that's calling out a specific person, or anything like that, that could be contrary to the beliefs of your, potential employers. I think you just got to be really, really careful about that. But if you're just super passionate about a particular cause or, something like that, I think it's totally fine for you to write about it. Just keep it professional. Don't just rant about your feelings, have a perspective, have reasoning to support why do you believe this? I mean, you're all in law school or will be in law school or will be young lawyers. So advocate for yourself, advocate for your position. Don't just rant.
I have another one. Angie, I just wanted to know about features, the features section. I'm still a little baffled about what's the best way to utilize that and to maximize. If you have any suggestions, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think for lawyers, I mean, you're going to be hosting events, doing CLEs. I put all of that type of stuff in my featured section. Any awards that you've won, you can put those in your featured section. Links to any media that you've created, whether it's a podcast or anything else. I try to keep like one of each thing that we're doing in my featured section. So one of our post series, one of our podcasts, one of our Zoom meetups, one of our events, those types of things, so that, and I change up my featured section like practically daily. So that's totally okay. Like if you're wondering how often you should be editing this material, like before, I would say February 2020, I think I was touching my LinkedIn like once every 6 months, maybe. And then after, February 2020, I started using it practically every day. It's totally okay if you don't have enough time to do that. Like, I get it. You're law students and you're lawyers and you're busy. But I think it can be a really powerful tool. Once you start engaging in the conversations, you're going to want to spend more time on it. So you're going to want to come back. You're going to want to engage with the people that you found here on LinkedIn. So I do think it's important that you remind yourself to regularly log in and check things out there. Oh, people are asking, how do you download the resume book from the profile? If you just click on the resume book, I think there's like a ellipses button in the top corner, and you can just click the ellipses button and then hit download. So it should download directly from there. If you're not able to get it to work, just email me. I'll send it directly to you. Are there any recommended hashtags for attorneys? Oh, yeah, we'll talk about this on Thursday too. Hashtags, highly underutilized on LinkedIn right now, but somehow very powerful. So LinkedIn has started really upping their game on hashtags. But something important you should know is that it's not like Instagram where you can have all the hashtags in the world. LinkedIn really starts to penalize you after 3. So if you start having more than 3 hashtags, LinkedIn starts to say like, "Ooh, that's spam. I'm going to put that down in the algorithm." So if you're going to have hashtags, you should use the most followed hashtag first. So the algorithm gives priority to the hashtags in the order that they're in. So the very first hashtag has to have the most followers. So I always use something really broad like lawyers, law students. Those are highly followed hashtags. And so like use those first and then use your branded hashtags. So, and create a branded hashtag. I use the Juris Mentor. You can create a branded hashtag for yourself so that, one, it's easy for you to go back and find your own posts, which I lose all mine all the time. And 2, it's easy for people to start to follow you if they're looking specifically for your content. So have a branded hashtag. And if you're going to create a branded hashtag, you have to call it out. So for the first few times that you post, you're going to say, follow me at hashtag whatever if you want more content like this. Like give them a call to action to remind people to do it, or they won't. Do you have any networking tips for law students who plan to work in a different state? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. For all of you who are thinking about going to different states, so I went from Texas to New Hampshire for law school and ended up in DC. None of that made any sense. But the way that I did it was I was constantly looking for ways to network with people that were outside of my geographic areas, whether it was talking to my alumni who had moved somewhere else, engaging in bar associations at a national level, participating in online virtual events. Like these virtual events that law firms and bar associations are throwing on LinkedIn now are like the best thing that could ever happen to law students. Because now you have opportunities to interact with lawyers that you would never have passed in real life, that probably would have never had the opportunity to come to your law school. So definitely, look for, every single law firm pretty much is probably going to have some sort of company page. If they have events on their company page, then you can sign up for them if they allow you to, or, message the host of that event and be like, hey, can I go to those events? Let's see, virtual events for lawyers. Is there a link? Well, I host a virtual happy hour for lawyers every other Friday, and we are actually having one this Friday. Alex Sue is a lawyer that actually hosts a bunch of his own meetups, and that's where I met a lot of the lawyers that wrote that book with me. Ari Kaplan also is a very prolific event host. He hosts a virtual lunch for 30 minutes literally every workday. And I don't know how that man does it, because I lose my mind trying to do 2 events a week. Alex I've seen a couple of law students on. Ari, I think those are really more targeted towards lawyers. But I mean, I've seen non-lawyers on there too. So you could probably join those. I don't think either one would complain about it. Let's see here. Nick Rashwain also hosts events on Discord, and Mike Whelan. Okay, great. A lot of those folks, follow them, look for their events as well. And we'll talk about a lot more ways to engage with people on Thursday, and how do you actually meaningfully engage with a speaker after an event, because I think, a lot of us are going to these virtual events and not getting a lot out of it because we're not remembering to engage with people after the event. So just make sure, that you're doing certain things to remind yourself to engage with folks. Oh yeah, Dina has a good point too. New York City Bar Association has amazing virtual events for law students and recent grads. The Black Pre-Law Conference actually also has a bunch of free events for pre-law students. So if you're looking for those, you can go to those. Oh, thank you. Thanks so much, everybody, for being here today. Sorry if I spoke super fast. Thank you for bearing with me through the tech issues. And thank you so much, Dina, for inviting me.
Thank you. And we hope to see everybody on Thursday, and bring your friends.